Hello and welcome to this segment of Join Our Town. I'm your host, LaTrenda Cunningham-Hollins. We're so thrilled that you're here today to watch Joy. Got a wonderful guest for you today. We're talking about something that is vital to our community. We're talking to Miss Cindy Kuro. She's the Prevention Educator for the Set Free Movement. It's an international organization, and she's here to talk about the local chapter. We're talking about trafficking today, human trafficking. So thank you, Miss Cindy, for joining me today.
Thank you.
Tell me about, we hear human trafficking all the time. We hear it, in the news in passing, kind of like an undercurrent. Tell me, is this an issue that we really should be taking seriously here in our area?
Oh yes, it's very prevalent. It is, let me first give you the definition for what trafficking is, because a lot of people feel like that transportation is involved, and that is not necessarily the case at all. Any commercial sex act done with someone under the age of 18 is considered sex trafficking, and no consent needs to, it doesn't matter whether it was consensual or not, because if you're under the age of 18, you can't legally consent for sexual activity. The commercial part of it comes in where something of value is exchanged. Once again, people had the perception that someone would have to be paid, and it doesn't necessarily just limit them to money exchange, just someone getting a place to stay, some food, some clothing. That constitutes trafficking. If someone is 18 or older, there is some criteria that has to be proven. There has to be force involved, or fraud, or coercion, which is how the definition is legally, and so that goes abroad.
So that gives more explanation of why it's so, why the definition is so broad.
Yes.
And how it's so important.
Yes.
Can you tell me, because we automatically think trafficking is sex trafficking, tell me a little bit about sex trafficking, but also about labor trafficking.
Well, labor trafficking and sex trafficking are both under the umbrella of human trafficking. Our organization, our local one, concentrates on the sex trafficking part of it, but certainly labor trafficking is going on all around us as well.
How can someone fall victim to sex trafficking?
There are so many different ways. The important thing to realize is that it's demand driven. The people that are out there buying boys and girls will pay big money to have the traffickers, which we call pimps, they're synonymous terms, to go after whoever they desire. And you have to understand that the buyers can be pastors, attorneys, professionals, people that you would not suspect. 99% of them are male, and because they can go online and look at an ad and make a selection, they're not visible. Nobody knows this is going on.
Domestic minor sex trafficking happens. It happens here. Young girls and boys are all chosen into this lifestyle every day. Traffickers are narrowing their target to lure younger and younger victims. The youth of America find themselves engaged in a fight that they were never prepared for. A documentary titled Chosen gives an inside look at two all-American teenage girls who were trafficked. 18-year-old Brianna was an honor roll student, a cheerleader, and worked at a local cafe. 13-year-old Lacey was an active member of her youth group and a volunteer in her community. Both were manipulated, both were exploited, both were chosen.
I was preyed upon by him.
He told me I would not be worth anything.
There were threats.
I thought he was the greatest. He was grooming me. I was given nice, expensive gifts.
This comprehensive training reveals the warning signs and sometimes fatal consequences of sex trafficking. This training will help equip teens to better protect themselves and others from being trapped in the horrific and violent sex industry.
He was charming.
It could be anybody. I was one of the normal girls.
They were abusive.
I was stalked.
Chosen.
I was chosen.
See something, say something.
Protect your friends.
Protect yourself.
How is it that, and I know we have questions that we have, but I'm going to go with what the viewers may want to see. Okay. How is it that this issue is so underground and so, I guess, skewed in the fact that it's so hidden until we don't really even realize the prevalence of it.
Well, that's the industry loves that, of course. There's so many different ways that it exhibits itself. One of them is with there is a national sex trafficking network. And in those cases, the victims' IDs are taken, they're moved around a lot, they don't usually even know where they're at. They maintain them in like a house or a hotel or a motel for just a short period, then they're moved around. So those people, somebody knows something has happened because they're missing, obviously, from their home, from their community. And now people are starting to realize, well, I don't think they probably just ran away. I think there's something more sinister going on.
Back in the old days, in the 80s and the 70s and even in the 60s, your pimp was that guy who wore that bright suit with the hat and the feather coming out of it. You know, that's what we were used to seeing. Now it's just that guy that stands on the corner. It could be your neighbor that could be trafficking people, because nothing says, hey, here I am trafficking people, come get me. I've been seeing a lot more females that are also participating in, you know, taking these females and putting them on these websites and managing them.
So you have that aspect of it, but then because of gang involvement, because it's so lucrative, rather than just selling drugs or weapons, that once they get that money's gone. If they own, and that's how they look at it, that's their property, boys and girls, they can use them multiple times a day, a week, and make a lot of money. They normally do not want to maintain them because of the drama and all that in a home or a motel or something, but once they are lured into this, they have them live at home, go to school, and no one even knows that they're doing this on their free time.
Really?
Because they have to be on call when that cell phone goes off and get out of their house or whatever, to be able to service the people that are on their list.
How can someone or a young person fall victim to this?
Okay, there's once again, the traffickers have just a tremendous knowledge of psychology, and they know that it's going to take something different for each particular person. So what they do is find out who the buyers are looking for, and this is why it's not just people that are at risk because they're in foster care or runaways or in a one-parent home, because oftentimes the buyer will say, I don't want someone that's been on the street. I don't want someone that's been used and abused. I want someone from a middle class, nice home. And so then what happens is, a lot of times it's like an older boyfriend type situation that gives her attention, finds out everything about her and her family, and will spend weeks or months grooming her. She really thinks this guy is in love with her.
Traffickers or pimps, they pretend to be an older boyfriend, and these young girls actually fall in love with these guys and believe that this guy loves them back.
He was like 24, he played football at a university. He had bought me some designer jeans and things.
Go to like movies and malls, trips, stuff like that. He bought me a dress and some jewelry because like I didn't really have stuff like that.
It's important for the pimp or the trafficker to separate these girls from their family and their friends.
He really gave me the courage to kind of stand up to my mom.
He was like, you know, just kind of keep it on the down low.
One day he asks for something, and even though she doesn't want to do it, she's so worried about losing him that she will. And once he's had her do it once, he pretty much can control her from then on.
He kept saying that he needed money. So I was like, you know, I'll help you or whatever.
I made a choice that night, but I found out that they actually had chosen me.
And then may send him some sexting pictures.
Which is popular now.
Oh
with the
my
young
goodness.
people.
And then is blackmailed into, you know, doing things so that those don't get exposed. Or she's given a drug and raped, and that's videotaped. And so then they threaten her or her family if she exposes what's going on, and so she feels trapped.
What part does faith play in what you all do every day? Because, you know, this is a serious issue, and it's an issue that people really don't want to talk about openly.
That's
you know,
right. That's right.
Years ago we didn't want to talk about AIDS and homosexuality, but we found out that if we don't talk about it, it becomes something that's festering.
Yes,
So we learned that we have to
absolutely.
talk about it so that we can figure out what we're going to do and what steps to take. So this is a great issue for us to be discussing, because we do need to know. We want to have our eyes wide open.
Yes.
But tell me, what part does faith play every day when you all are trying to help these people and trying to even keep your own hearts, you know, guarded during the work that you're doing?
Well, foremost, everything has to be covered in prayer. Everything has to be covered in prayer. And so I'm asking your audience to be in prayer, not only for the victims, but it took a little while for me to be able to do this, but something is horribly broken for a pimp to be able to do what he or she does, because there are female traffickers as well, and also for the buyers, because the demand has got to be reduced in order for us to get a handle on this problem. Pornography is a huge fuel for all of this, and people need to realize that the images in the pornography are usually trafficked people. They're not there on their own free will.
You know, there's a scripture that says, I came that you may have life and have it more abundantly.
Yes.
You know, sometimes people we get to the place where we feel like our life is not worth what he always said it was.
Yes.
And at that point of despair, a lot of times we just fall victim to that vulnerable part. Tell me, you know, a lot of times we look at there used to be milk cartons. I was going to say milk carton. It shows you how old I am. But there used to be all these photos on the milk cartons, and even now we've got the registries. Do you know how many or a percentage of young people that may have fallen prey, that maybe not just are missing or ran away, that maybe they have been sucked into this world of trafficking?
Well, they estimate in our country alone, not even talking about overseas, there are at least 300,000 victims, with at least half of those being minors. It's very hard to get a handle on the statistics, because the only ones that can be proven are the online stings, and thankfully law enforcement is stepping up and doing those on a regular basis now. But those people that are being trafficked while they're still at home, and sometimes it's the families that are trafficking their own children, I've run into that quite a bit, that's not going to be reported because no one's admitting that that's going on. So I encourage people, if they you know, we get that gut feeling, God gives us a sensitivity to when things are not right, and if something is amiss, you think that just doesn't seem right, there's something going on here, I encourage people to call the hotline.
You know, I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm so glad the hotline number has been on the screen. I want you, if you have any idea, they don't mind if you just have a inkling or a question.
That's right.
To contact and find out what's going on, and just to know and be informed. We want to be informed. So thank you so much, Miss Cindy, for being here. We'll see you next time on Join Our Town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Human trafficking generates $32 billion a year. The average age of victims sold into slavery is 12 to 14. California is one of the top areas in the nation for buying and selling human beings. If you suspect human trafficking, please call the National Human Trafficking Resource Center. Together we can help victims heal and prevent further harm.